You would probably never classify a well-known chef as a picky eater, but even the most famous celebrity chefs have foods they just can't stand, and some of them are definitely not what you would expect. Truffles might be right up there at the top of the list when it comes to classy foods, but truffle oil? Given that it's not made from real truffles, not so much. Gordon Ramsay and Joe Bastianich both made their feelings about truffle oil perfectly clear in one tense episode of MasterChef. When one contestant drizzled her dish in white truffle oil, they didn't pull any punches. Bastianich walked over to her station and threw the cylinder of truffle oil in the garbage after saying any restaurant who had it on the menu wasn't worth it. Ramsay called it
one of the most pungent, ridiculous ingredients ever known to chef.
They're not the only ones that refuse to have anything to do with truffle oil. Alton Brown once told Grub Street, "Truffle oil sucks." And when Today asked Martha Stewart what was on her naughty list, she had this to say, "Oh, I would never use truffle oil. Oh, never. It's bad. They've done many studies on truffle oil. It's synthetic. It's fake. It's horrible. It clings to your taste buds. It's a hideous thing." Anthony Bourdain was on the list of truffle oil haters too, once calling it about as edible as Astroglide and made from the same stuff. It's an old joke. The customer asks the server, "What's the soup du jour?" and they respond, "The soup of the day." According to Gordon Ramsay, though, the soup du jour isn't actually a laughing matter. It's one of the items on a restaurant's menu that he absolutely wants nothing to do with. When Town & Country asked him what he recommended never ever ordering at a restaurant, he had this bit of wisdom to offer. Ask what yesterday's soup du jour was before today's special. It may be the case that it's the soup du month. The idea of getting something served up that's been reheated and reused for days suddenly doesn't sound so good. The idea of soup of the day makes it sound like it's going to be super fresh, but take it from Ramsay. You should probably follow in his footsteps and opt for something else. Every so often, we hear something about our favorite celebrity chefs that really serves to remind you that they live in an entirely different world. Take Mary Berry. She's written more than 70 cookbooks and made the world fall in love with her on the Great British Bake Off. But if you think that after a long day of filming she might grab some takeout on the way home, you'd be mistaken. On James Martin's Christmas with Friends, she remarked, "You won't believe this, but I haven't ever had a takeaway." Berry has been vocal about her belief that Britain, quote, orders in and eats out way too much and should start making more home-cooked meals. It's entirely possible she's the only person in Britain who's never ordered out for a pizza, a curry, or even fish and chips. And according to The Telegraph, that's not just a shame, it's a sign that she's missing out on an entire section of British cuisine and culture. Store-bought mayonnaise is weird. It's shelf-stable, but it's filled with all kinds of things that definitely aren't. Do you know who else thinks so? Rachel Ray. She said on The Rachel Ray Show,
"We did not grow up with mayonnaise in my house. We just didn't have it around. It's weird to me. The consistency is weird to me."
But she's fine with mayo and aioli as long as she makes it fresh. And according to the Huffington Post, there's a lot of people who can't stomach the idea of mayo. They chopped it up to a few reasons. It's an inanimate object that shouldn't wiggle, but does, that whole room temperature thing, and it just looks like something that's going to make us sick. Yum. Lentils are basically edible seeds, according to Healthline. They're a part of the legume family and extremely nutritious. While they're packed full of vitamins, nutrients, protein, and iron, that they're a perfect thing to add to a vegetarian diet, none of that will ever convince Bobby Flay to put them on his menus. He told the New York Times, "Whenever I tell somebody I hate lentils, they're shocked. There are a lot of lentil fans out there." And it's not just a personal hate. Flay dislikes lentils so much that when he opened Bar Americain, he vetoed a beet and goat cheese salad, and it got the axe based solely on the fact that it contained lentils. That's not to say you'll never get lentils at one of his restaurants. When the boss is away, it turns out that the chefs will indeed play. He stated, "When I go on vacation, they run specials on lentils." Now you know how to tell if he's out of town. Carrots might seem like an odd thing to swear off, but according to the New York Times, it's one thing that Alex Garnaschelli wants absolutely nothing to do with. She stated, "I will serve baby carrots, but once it gets over 2 inches long, I break into a cold sweat." Why? Early in her career, she was a sous chef at an upscale Paris restaurant. Julienne carrots were always on the menu. Like, always. Permanently. And that meant she was responsible for julienning a lot of carrots. It's understandable how little carrots might be something that she'd never want to see again. She said, "Now I have a panic attack when I see shredded carrot in a salad." It doesn't matter how much of a foodie you are, everyone keeps a few frozen pizzas in their fridge for those nights where they just can't. They're quick, they're easy, and if you happen to have some extra cheese and toppings to throw on, they're usually not terrible. But Ted Allen says that he absolutely won't eat a frozen pizza. He told Time, "People should not eat frozen pizza, ever. It's terrible. All of it's awful, just packed with the lowest quality ingredients, lousy sauces, and they're overpriced for what they are. It's not a good product. There's so much sodium, so many calories, and artificial crap and preservatives."
And it's not exactly pizza either. It's almost pizza.
Come on, that's pizza.
No, it's very nearly pizza, but not quite.
But sometimes you just want something that will cook itself in the time it'll take you to find something on Netflix. Alan has a suggestion, and it's pretty brilliant. Next time you order out for a pizza, order an extra one. Individually wrap the slices and freeze them. If there's one thing that American cuisine does right, it's breakfast. There are just so many options, from breakfast sandwiches to yogurt parfaits to stacks of pancakes with a side of bacon. But there's one chef that refuses to eat any of those things, and that's Ina Garten. She told Bon Appetit, "I've had the same thing for breakfast every single day for 10 years. Coffee and McCann's quick-cooking Irish oatmeal with lots of salt. I don't want it to taste like wallpaper paste." That's a lot of oats. At least they're good for you. The barefoot Contessa might not have any donuts hanging around her house, but for all the breakfast foods she doesn't eat, there's 4 things that she says are always in her freezer: homemade stock, soup, vanilla Haagen-Dazs, and Grey Goose vodka. Sounds like a party.
Food Network star Ree Drummond doesn't hold back about what she doesn't like. When it comes to bananas, Drummond has 3 words: abhor, loathe, and recoil. Drummond has developed a few banana recipes for her fans over the years, but they are not her favorite. When asked about her perfect dish by Design and Living magazine, she immediately took a shot at the yellow fruit. Oh gosh, well again, if it doesn't have bananas. I don't like bananas. I like to drive that point home. There's not much to hate about green bell peppers. They're like lettuce, crisp and crunchy without any strong taste. But that's exactly why Chef Aaron Sanchez told Food Network he won't touch them. "I like red bell peppers and yellow peppers, but green bell peppers just don't taste like much of anything." Many chefs love spicy food with bold flavors.
Bam! That's a little bam right there.
But not everyone can get on board. Chef Katie Lee told the Food Network that she just can't handle wasabi. "I love spicy food, so I'm not sure why I have this aversion to wasabi, but I really detest it." While Lee holds the wasabi, she's up for other spicy bites, noting that she keeps hot sauce in her purse, just like Beyoncé. Some people think pineapple pizza is the perfect blend of sweet and savory. Chef Gordon Ramsay disagrees. When hosting The Nightly Show, Ramsay decided to order pizzas for the audience. Audience members called out toppings while he phoned in the order. And when one person asked for pineapple pizza, Ramsay lost it in his signature way.
Let's have 10 of the pepperonis.
How many pepperonis?
You don't put pineapple on a pizza.
Ramsay doesn't just hate pineapple pizza. He also won't do grits, or an American Thanksgiving favorite, deep-fried turkey. A friend in Los Angeles convinced him to try it, and
it was disgusting.
Oh, it's so good.
Dry turkey. There's a reason why we only eat that bird once a year.
When chefs don't like certain foods, they have to decide if they are still willing to create recipes with them. Many people love coconut, but Chef Giada De Laurentiis can't stand it and doesn't like to cook with it. She told People, "I don't like coconut. I may have one coconut recipe in all the recipes I've ever written." Bizarre Foods host Andrew Zimmern told People that even though he enjoys some of the strangest foods on the planet, he can't do raw cookie dough, and some other perfectly normal foods including oatmeal and walnuts. Raw cookie dough. Won't eat it, can't stand it. I love fermented walrus anus, so I get to not like some things. Fair enough.
You gotta love this kind of thing. Because it's kind of like eating sand.
One of the most famous celebrity chefs had one of the most widespread food aversions. That's right, Julia Child could not abide cilantro. The fact that this opinion is so common partly comes down to genetics. According to a genetic survey from researchers at Cornell, a distaste for cilantro has to do with the presence of the gene OR6A2. The gene is related to aldehyde chemicals, which are also found in soap, which is why some people who don't like cilantro claim that it tastes soapy. Child spent much of her career living in France, where it would have been unlikely for her to come across cilantro, which is far more common in Mexican or Indian cuisines. but she also had an aversion to arugula, a peppery salad leaf that she would have been far more likely to come across in her travels in France or neighboring Italy. As she told Larry King in a 2002 interview, she would never order it. As she admitted, "I would pick it out if I saw it and throw it on the floor." But aside from these two greens, Child had a rather adventurous palate. As she told King, "If it's properly cooked and properly served, I can't think of anything I hate." Ina Garten has quite a bit in common with Julia Child. They're both Francophile cooks who had very successful non-food-related careers before turning to the kitchen. Child developed shark repellent for the agency that would become the CIA, while Garten was a budget analyst for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Furthermore, both ladies have absolutely adorable and adoring husbands to spoil with their rich, buttery cooking. And both of them hate cilantro. As Garten told Time magazine in 2017, "I just won't go near it." And that's not the only thing Garten won't eat. As she also noted, "I'm not big on things with eyeballs and foam." That sounds all well and good, because unless you're buying whole fish or dining in a Michelin-starred restaurant, it's unlikely you'll come across eyeballs in your meal. But there is one common food item that this cook, who's so famous for telling people that store-bought is fine, cannot abide: pre-grated Parmesan cheese. And honestly, she has a point. Not only is it highly suspicious when a dairy product is shelf-stable, but the FDA found in 2016 that some brands of Shaker cheese were cutting the product with cellulose, also known as sawdust. Woodsy aromas in wine are one thing, but when it comes to actual wood in your cheese, we'll have to pass.
Are they made of wood?
One of the United States' favorite sandwich fillings is a bit more divisive abroad. Indeed, peanut butter confuses the heck out of most non-Americans, which is clear enough during a cursory glance on Twitter. As one person tweeted in 2019, "Americans? You mean the people who think a peanut butter and jelly sandwich is an acceptable thing to eat for a meal?" Meanwhile, another went so far as to posit, "Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are proof all Americans have brainworms." One foreigner who really can't stand peanut butter is Austrian super chef Wolfgang Puck. Despite living in the US since the 70s, he's never gotten on board with this nostalgic American classic, as he explained to the Daily Meal in 2013. "I don't eat peanut butter. I don't know why I have no taste for peanut butter, but we have Nutella, which is a chocolate hazelnut paste. Nutella is far sweeter and more of a dessert than a sandwich spread, so it's not hard to see where Puck is coming from." Sometimes a food trend takes on a life of its own. Such is the case with cauliflower rice, which began its rise to fame in the wake of a surplus of low-carb diets. Fast forward a few years into this trend, and bags of these pellets have made their way into the likes of Trader Joe's. But for Italian-American celebrity chef Giada De Laurentiis, this is a very unwelcome addition to the culinary scene. During a 2021 appearance on the Milk Street Radio podcast, she chatted about her new book, while also taking a moment to focus on cauliflower. As she writes in her book, it's having its, quote, Hollywood moment thanks to its neutral flavor. While cauliflower is indeed versatile and De Laurentiis celebrates it for being something plain enough that kids will eat, she isn't a fan of its riced form. As she explained, "Right now, cauliflower rice is having its heyday. I wish it would go away soon because it's gross to me." She then made her feelings unmistakably clear as she insisted, "I hate it. I don't like cauliflower rice, okay? Leave me alone." Rachel Ray is nothing if not approachable in her style and palate, as she leans into shortcuts like pre-shredded cheese to help dinner get on the table fast. But despite her gregarious personality and humble attitude, there are a few things she just can't stand. It wasn't until recently that she revealed her dislike of cooked salmon, an aversion that she shares with her husband John. She likes raw salmon, but the cooked version just isn't her bag. It's not quite as bad as her loathing of mayonnaise, but it's still significant nonetheless. Enough so that we sure won't be serving her any grilled salmon if she ever comes around our place for dinner. Durian is a divisive food with a pungent aroma that even led Singapore's public transit authorities to forbid the fruit from subways and buses. Foodies, from 17th century missionary Jacques de Bourges to New York Times journalist Thomas Fuller, have waxed poetic about this South Asian fruit, which hides a creamy, textured treat beneath a spiky exterior. As Fuller put it, you'll experience overtones of hazelnut, apricot, caramelized banana, and egg custard. He also proclaimed, "There is no other fruit like it." But for others, that uniqueness isn't exactly a positive. Late foodie Anthony Bourdain reportedly once said that after eating durian, your breath will smell as if you'd been French kissing your dead grandmother. And Food Network star Chef Bobby Flay isn't a fan either. As he told People magazine, "It's awful. I don't want to be around it." On diners, drive-ins, and dives, Guy Fieri seems to like pretty much everything he sinks his teeth into. From crocodile burgers to a 3-pepper hot sauce so spicy it could cook raw chicken. In fact, he has a policy of keeping things he doesn't like to himself. As he explained to The Hollywood Reporter, "If I don't like the food, you won't see it on my shows." But there is one particular food that this spiky-haired chef really can't stand, and that would be eggs. Although this wasn't always the case. He, in fact, used to love eggs, and as he confessed in an interview with Extra Crispy, a fried egg sandwich with processed cheese on white bread when I would go to my friend's house was the greatest thing in the world. But then, at around the age of 10, he had a revelation. As he put it, "I came to a very clear understanding of how chickens grow when we opened the egg." As Fieri recalled, the shell cracked to reveal not a blood spot, but an entire chicken. But this actually wasn't the experience that made him swear off eggs. As he explained, "That didn't really freak me out. You know what it was? It's that I had a bad, hard-boiled egg. It was the chalky yolk." Considering this backstory, it remains pretty clear that you probably won't see any boiled eggs on diners, drive-ins, and dives anytime soon. In a world where toxic chefs are being exposed seemingly all the time, Emeril Lagasse still seems like a genuinely good guy. As he noted in a 2011 interview with Grub Street, "There's enough drama in the real world. I really stay out of it in the food world. I find it to be a huge waste of time. There's no room for that kind of nonsense in my life. If I'm confronted with negativity, all I can think is, you can't be everything to everybody." It's perhaps no surprise then that if Lagasse has nothing bad to say about any person, then he has nothing bad to say about any food either. And that's true for the most part. He told Grub Street that he doesn't consider himself a food snob, as he noted, "I can go to any regular restaurant and find good about it." However, he does draw the line somewhere, as he admitted, "My children will never, ever eat at fast food restaurants. It's strictly not allowed." Nigella Lawson is the textbook definition of low-key when it comes to cooking. The domestic goddess is known for taking viewers along as she seeks a sweet midnight snack while wearing pajamas, and for demonstrating non-traditional cooking methods. She even proudly leans on a much-maligned kitchen tool despite her bizarre pronunciation.
But I still need a bit of milk, full fat, which I've warmed in the microwave.
Lawson's lack of pretension is perhaps what has led to her aversion to a particular kitchen tool, the ramekin. Maybe she thinks it's too fussy, or maybe, as she's indicated on Twitter, she just doesn't like the way the word sounds. But to her credit, her issue isn't so great that she can't clamor for a chocolate chip cookie dough pot. And honestly, we get it. They look awesome. Maybe she'd be okay with mixing up a microwave chocolate mug cake in a ramekin as well. Gordon Ramsay has long been known for his hot-headedness. Indeed, he's made a whole career out of it. So it was really no surprise when he didn't hold back regarding plant-based diets. When someone asked him on Twitter in 2016 if he was allergic to anything, he quipped, "Vegans." And it turns out that he's got a history of not exactly being friendly to vegetarians. As he once said, "If one of my daughter's boyfriends turns out to be vegetarian, I swear to God, I'd never forgive them." Ramsay has also joked about what he would do if one of his own children adopted the diet. As he put it, "My biggest nightmare would be if the kids ever came up to me and said, 'Dad, I'm a vegetarian.' Then I would sit them on the fence and electrocute them." But Ramsay has been eating his words lately. He's rolled out vegan items at his own restaurants, and he even told TikTok that he was, quote, "turning vegan." And when Piers Morgan had the audacity to critique the vegan roast at Ramsay's London-based Bread Street kitchen, the chef pulled no punches.
So Piers Morgan is now a food critic?
Yeah, sure.
Go and yourself. Seriously, really?